bank tellers of Reddit. What's the funniest thing you've seen written in the first space on a check? My wife used to process checks for the corporate office of a payday lending check cashing store. She had a check written out for $69.69 bounce back to her one day, and the memo line read "Boot call." One of my best friends used to occasionally borrow small amounts of cash and later transfer it back. He would use things like Anal Destroyer 3000 and Man Cream wink wink so that I would have to present it to my tax guy at the end of the year. Super embarrassing trying to explain it was a practical joke. Kind of related. A few months back, I owed my girlfriend some money for a concert ticket. I wrote her a check and under the first space I wrote the fantastic BJ. She didn't really care because she was going to deposit it at the ATM. Well, we both forgot that her parents can see her bank account activity. Her dad called her a couple days later laughing and said, "I saw that check you deposited. I can't believe you don't do that for free. He is your boyfriend after all." She was mortified. I was in tears laughing. Her dad deserves to be in the father-in-law Hall of Fame. I was a teller for about 3 years up until last year. I never saw anything really funny come through, but I did have one customer who had to get cashier's checks every month for one of his vendors. I would always ask him if he wanted to put something in the memo line that would print on the check. He asked if I could put "go frick yourself," and so I did. So every month for about 6 months, he would wait for me so his beer vendor received a check that had different variations of "go frick yourself" and "here's your crappy money." Later I found out the VP of the beer company contacted that specific vendor to find out why the checks he deposits all had these messages on them. Can't believe I didn't get fired at that job. I got a personal check from my boss once, was waiting in line to cash it, looked down and it said, "For being gay." I never get paid for that. I once wrote my roommate a check for rent and put strippers and coke in the memo line. When he went to cash the $400 check, the teller looked at it and asked him with a completely straight face if he would like that all in 1S. I sorely want 1S. UK strippers have it good. Lowest denomination is a $5, and the slots they come equipped with do not handle change. I once wrote drug money in the comments section of a PayPal transfer. Dang, was that a mistake. Both my account and the receiver's account were instantly frozen. Had to go through heck and high water to get it unlocked. I was extremely drunk while I wrote my friend a check and looked at the scan of it from my bank website when he cashed some time later. In the amount line, $200. Memo, your D, my mouth, semicolon and all. I think I messed up the order there. You put his D in your mouth and gave him $200. You're king among friends. I'm still on my parents' cell phone family plan since it's grandfathered into unlimited data. I have my bank set up to automatically send him a check every month for the food I ate as a child. I recently got off my parents' plan and was able to keep my unlimited data. You need to go into a corporate store and find a salesperson who is cool. You'll have to call AT&T while there, and they'll try to sway you into one of the tiered plans, but if keep to your convictions of keeping your unlimited data, you can keep it. On my friend's birthday a few years ago, a mutual friend gave him a joke gift of $10 in 50 checks for 20 cents. On each of the memos she wrote "Happy Birthday" again. Then she found out she only had $1 in her account and received $20 overdraft fees for all but 5 of the checks. My grandmother has Alzheimer's, and one of the symptoms is that as the disease progresses she digresses in maturity level. Well, throughout my teens she basically became a teenager again. In the "for" section of the check she wrote me as a graduation present, she wrote bubble gum, other candy, and condoms. I love that she knows how important it is that bubble gum be separated from every type of candy in my world. Man, I wonder what she was really like in her teens. We all hated my old roommate that collected rent every month, so we would always write funny stuff on our checks, like mail order brides, marijuana, bag of dongs, used tampons. When he moved out, we decided to give him his last check on one of those huge Publishers Clearinghouse style checks. It cost us like $70, but was completely worth it. Yes, I still have the humor of a teenager too. One of those huge Publishers Clearinghouse style checks. I have a speeding ticket I need to pay. I used to live with a guy who always wrote uncomfortable things in the check memos. One day, he hands me a check for $24.63 for his share of the cable. In the memo it read, "Give me back my son." I fell out. I've only written checks for tickets and my excise tax when it was too late to pay online. The reasons I've provided for tickets have been speed limit was too low and Popo caught me. I forget the reason I provided when I had to pay court fees for driving and registered uninsured. My excise tax was for fixing Lynn's awful roads. Oh man, I forgot all about writing checks to the court. I wrote one for a ticket once for cop being a dong. I have Hello Kitty checks. I always giggle at the thought of one of my friends cashing a bright pink $1,100 check for hot rectal pounding. Why do you give your friends $1,100 checks and also can I be your friend? I used to live with 3 other guys where one would pay cable, one utilities, one water, etc. and we'd pay back our share by writing them a check every month. Some of my best checks had really intricate drawings of dongs in the for section. Not just the dong itself though. I've found if you add in the surrounding legs and torso it brings the dong drawing up to a whole new level of realism. Probably my best one though was a dong being sucked by a pretty decent drawing of a girl's face mouth. Got a call from my dad a few days after it got deposited telling me to cut that crap out. Since I was only in college and still under his account or something he was able to see all the checks online once they were deposited. Reminds me of Superbird. I don't think I laughed harder during that than during the dong drawing portion. I used to do this to my roommate whenever I paid him for the bills. My favorites are home abortion kit, which he said he was totally going to cash until he walked in and the teller was pregnant, homemade sexual lubricant, pole dancing lessons, KKK membership dues, noose tying lessons, eternal possession of his soul. There were others as we lived together for 2 years, and so I got about 2 chances a month to attempt to embarrass him at the bank. Apparently he had explained what was going on to the tellers and they began to look forward to him bringing in the goofy checks. And after he moved out, he got asked by the teller what had happened to my checks. I like to frick with my landlord. Some of my better ones are spreading like butter for my bread, Listerine enema, and but gymnastics. Pro tip, do not try a Listerine enema. It will burn you in ways that you can't not wash away with any form of ease. This is perfect as me and my girlfriend do this to each other every month when we write our rent checks. One month I'll pay in full and she will write me a check. The next she will do the same. Last month I believe I wrote butthole bleaching. Before that I believe it was 3-way midget gangbang. I live in a house with 4 other students, and to make things easier one roommate pays the utility bill, and we pay them back. I always frick with them by writing ridiculous things on the check. I've put things like for stripping lessons, for the great sex, for the very reasonable prostitutes, this is a stick up etc. Apparently my friends get weird looks from the bank tellers now. I wonder why. When I got fined for fighting in hockey, I'd put child P, sexual favors, rub and tug. Never had my account frozen, but it sure pee off the managers of the hockey league. I used to roommate with a friend and her husband. I usually paid my rent with a check, but one month I decided to do something different. I spent the entire month making subtle, offhanded comments about needing more money, finding a second job, how tiring my second job was, etc. Once or twice when I was about to go out for the evening with friends, I said alright, I'm off to work just before walking out the door. I always made sure to slip those comments into another conversation in such a way that they wouldn't inspire any follow-up questions. At the end of the month I paid my rent with a big stack of $1s. For crabs, schmishmortion, balls, lots of them, gangbang, wizard lessons, Hogwarts tuition payment, and my personal favorite Aryan Nation kids camp. I should clarify, this is what I've written on checks to friends and roommates. I've been working at a bank for almost 2 years now. There is a member with another credit who comes in, and I crap you not, whose name is Kunta Kint. It is spelled the exact same way and he looks old and worn out all the time. But he's nice enough and always smiles when I wait on him, so I have always gone out of my way to talk to him. Well, a couple months ago, he deposited a couple of checks at once. On the memo line on one of them was, "For Toby, I had to give the deposit to another teller because I trying to stifle a laugh. I recently had some tree work done on my property for the agreed upon price of $350. In the memo line I wrote about tree fitty. It was then that I realized it wasn't a tree, but a 50-foot monster from the Paleolithic era. The goddamn Loch Ness monster tricked me again." Not a first space story, but my mom has been a bank teller for over 30 years and this is one of her favorite stories. One day an old lady came through the drive-thru when she really needed to come inside to cash the check because it needed approval. So my mom says something to her like, "Please pull around and come inside for an officer's approval." Well, about 20 minutes pass and mom still hasn't seen the old lady come into the main office. About that time she gets a phone call from the local police department saying, "We have Mrs. Smith here. She says she needs a police officer's approval to cash this check. We don't know why you would want her to do that, but we guess it's okay if she does it." Mom apologized about a million times and then asked them to please send back Mrs. Smith because she meant a bank officer, like a manager, had to approve it. Oh, also someone accidentally dropped their bag of weed in with their money in the night deposit box. Had their name and account information all right there with it. Wasn't really a check, but I was working at a bank. I was in a rich North Shore suburb of Chicago. Plastic surgery is pretty common. This customer went up to one of my co-workers and the following interaction happened. Customer: "Oh my gosh, those look great. Are they real?" Employee: "No, they're fake. I just had them done." Customer: "Can I feel them?" Employee: "Of course." Holds out her hands to show off her new nails. Customer: "Hands straight to the T," and starts massaging. Employee: "Pulls her tea out of the hands of that over the hill hag. No, those are real, these are fake." Showing off hands. That will quiet down an entire office. Sorry, I know it's not a check, but figured it's somewhat applicable. Thanks. I'm gonna try this out next time I notice a girl with fake nails. My girlfriend and I have made it a tradition to write silly things in the first space whenever we write rent checks. We've used armadillo wrestling, watermelon eating contest, your soul, building box forts, catering alien convention, etc. We try to keep it creative and fun. It always makes the girls in the office smile. My friend wanted to borrow $40 from me and I knew she would have to go in and see the cute bank teller guy. So I wrote on the "for strippers and sex toys." She didn't even read what I had wrote until the teller laughed and said this $40 isn't going to be enough. Every month I pay back some money that my parents lent me for college. Every month I think of something new to write. Highlights include last month's 4 fried chickens and a Coke, and this month's 2 pieces of plain white toast, dry. Past months included unobtainium, flux capacitor, and stairway to heaven. Now I have to stop using my debit card and order checks just to write stuff in the for space. Thanks for all the ideas, Reddit. This happened to my mom. A few years ago my dad wrote a check for her to cash and he wrote for sex in the for space. She said that the bank teller gave her a weird look after reading it and almost wouldn't cash it. I don't know if they can really not cash a check over something like that, but I thought it was super awesome of my dad to do that. It's completely legal to pay someone for sex in private. You can't go out and pick up a H though. I was denied an extension of my overdraft because whilst looking through my credit history there was a series of deposits from my girlfriend under the name DRUGZMONEY. You have been warned. Me and my old roommate used to have a lot of fun with this. The last one I used was, "This is a check he deserves, but not the one he needs right now." My roommate and I live with a cat, so we always do so and so for the cat. Breast augmentation for cat dance lessons, kitten haberdashery, custom cat ice skates. We are hoping that someone is following the excellent life our cat leads. I am a teller, so very rarely do sexual comments make me laugh anymore, because I've seen them all. In 2004 I would write "more years to pee off my brother." We were both Carrie supporters. Explicit sexuality isn't original, so your buddy who writes BJs isn't a comedic genius. My favorite subtle one is handiwork. Another that I did was squeeze in like 10 sentences of text that could have been from some sappy greeting card. saying something like for being the best brother, friend, and companion. For being the rock I can lean on during any storm, and it was a check for $8 for pizza money. That's a really creative way to send a letter, and it doesn't cost anything extra. Worked as a bank teller for about 5 months. 2 things made me laugh uncontrollably. 1. 2 women in bikinis were in a car, drinking Starbucks, did the drive-through banking option, jam-packed the tube with dollar bills and like 5 or 6 checks to deposit. Each of the checks had massage on it, except one which said handy, happy ending, massage. 2. One woman came in, said she needed to deposit a minimum of 55.50. She wrote it like this. Fiddy 5 fiddy. I lost my crap in front of her, which was embarrassing on both parts lol. The only noticeable thing I saw when I was a teller was thanks for the great head. My girlfriend who is a teller saw get a real job loser on some lady's spousal support check. You don't see too many memo lines filled in besides with people's account numbers. Having the memo line filled in is actually a sign of fraud. Fraudsters always write in a specific memo like for babysitting to try to cover themselves. So the bank I worked at always had you take a closer look at those. Just got a check for the money my friend owed me. Apparently I charge $150 for satanic rituals. Well, this isn't strictly answering the question, but during college I was a teller part-time and every week or so a different hot girl would come into the branch with a check from Joe Pesci made out to cash. The first space was blank, but I am pretty sure I knew anyway. To all the internet trolls below who can't believe somebody who grew up in LA saw at least 2 celebrities behaving strangely, get out, see a bit of the world. Also, because it's become a common question, don't remember the amounts. Your story reminds me of an important lesson I learned my junior year of college. If you hook up with a girl on the last day of the month, don't write a check for your rent the next morning while she is still in your bed. They get offended. College wanted some unnecessary fee after I left the school and transferred, otherwise they would withhold my transcripts. I wrote a check for ripping students off like the MUR. My landlord's wife passed away just shortly after I started renting from him, so I'd always put unusual things in the memo field to try to cheer him up. Imagining my 70-year-old landlord cashing a check with second place rap battle champion in the memo field is particularly hilarious. Other notable checks were located my ocelot, saved my life from ninjas, or simply punched a bear. Not quite the same, but when I was a child opening up my first ever bank account, I told the teller I was saving up for my Ferrari. She laughed and wrote it down. I convinced her specify it was for an F50. My old roommate was a security contractor and would ship out to Iraq anywhere from 3 months to a year. Here are some of the things he put in the first space on his rent checks. C in small inflatable animals. For hiding that thing. Setting me up with Betty White. 100 pounds of cyclotrimethylene trinitramine. There were many others, but for the life of me I can't think of them all. Every single rent check I ever wrote had H and blow written in the memo line. I kinda miss being a renter for that specific reason. My uncle gave me a check for my 18th birthday. Didn't notice until I was in line at the bank that he had written, "For titty squeeze." If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.